Hi, I'm Karuna. I'm the founder and executive director of Mind Oasis. And with me here is Turi Hetherington. And she's our guest on Meditation Happy Hour. Let's see, I think it's Tea, Talk, and Truth with Karuna. So we'll see which of the three we can hit. Hopefully all three. Turi, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. So the first question I like to ask all my guests is what your day has been like. Talk us through your day. What did it look like today?
This morning I was going to be a walk with my dog. She was recently injured and has some sutures, so she's been taking a couple weeks off from trail running, but we're 2 weeks into it and she was ready to go. So I went for a little jog with my dog this morning, which was a treat to be with her again. I so missed her. And it was very, very cold out. And then came back and had some breakfast and showered and got to work. Work today consisted of recording some videos, one for my MSU students. Of course, everything's online now. It's a beginner and intermediate yoga class. And then recording some videos for a special event called 17 to 0 for the MSU Vet Center. They're 17 to 0 because apparently the statistics are that 17 vets per day suffer from suicide.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, so they're doing an event. It was going to be a live event for 17 hours, but they're reconfiguring it to an online event. And I was just doing some little snippets, short videos on mindfulness. So that was the majority of my day because there were a few retakes of the videos, and in between there, visiting with my son and my husband.
Very nice. So when you say MSU, where in the world are you? There's a few MSUs.
That is a great question. I'm in Bozeman, Montana, so Montana State University.
Cool. So you do some sort of work with yoga asana or mindfulness in the university?
Yes, right now I'm teaching an intermediate and a beginner yoga for credit class. It's just a 1 credit class that meets twice a week. And next fall, I'll be introducing an introduction to Yoga Nidra class, which I'm really excited about because it'll be the first one in the recreation department where students can get credit for attending a Yoga Nidra class.
Cool. So since you went there, let's go there. Why don't you talk a little bit about Yoga Nidra? Why don't you talk a little bit about your journey to Yoga Nidra and all the things it means to you?
Oh, okay. Yoga Nidra is one of my most recent studies. I did my first teacher training back in 2011, graduated in 2012, and afterwards I started working for the school that I did the training with. I did work in the background, advertising, marketing, kind of database stuff, and taught at a local gym. And over the course of the last, I guess that's 8 years, I did my 300-hour training through that same school for 500-hour, and then I'm kind of an eager, hungry learner, and I also attended a 200-hour training on sound, on mantra, and the Sanskrit alphabet, and also on, more recently, iRest Yoga Nidra. And over the course of time, I never really felt like I had what I wanted to teach. And I know there are so many fabulous asana teachers in our community, but I didn't feel like one of them. Asana is not my love, but I do love the meditation aspect of it. And when I studied, trying to figure out like the best way to share this story, when I studied mantra, that was really powerful for myself as an introvert, and I've worked from home for, I guess if my son is 16, for nearly 15 years. Most of my work has been out of home, whether it was in hospitality and marketing, or worked for a nonprofit for years out of home, and then the work I did for the yoga school was out of my house. So I haven't had to talk a lot. And even when I'm teaching a yoga class, that's about, people connecting inward. So for me, a 200-hour training in mantra wasn't necessarily for me to go out and teach it, but for me to find my own voice. And my intention was to find, how do I translate all of these teachings I've taken in and embody them and make it authentic to me in my teaching, and what can I bring to my students. A lovely aspect of being able to attend that training was I received a grant through the Montana Department of Labor to go to this training. So I felt obligated to turn around and share it, yet still nervous about, sharing mantra. That's a pretty big move from not using my voice a lot to, I'm not ready to lead kirtans, and I have a lot to learn in playing the harmonium, so not ready to go there. And then I contemplated the training on Yoga Nidra and thought, maybe I'll just see if I could get a grant to go to that as well. So I applied to the Montana Department of Labor again for the Montana Incumbent Workers Training Program grant, and I received it. I was shocked. And I thought, that's a little nudge from the universe to continue my training thanks to the Montana Department of Labor. Who would have thought it? So extremely grateful to the state of Montana for that. And I did my level 1 and my level 2 training. And what I loved about the training, and what I love about it, is it takes the Eastern philosophy, the traditions, and combines it with contemporary neuroscience and psychology into this 10-step protocol that just puts it in this nice package that is approachable and not necessarily easy, but a way to present it to a variety of audiences. Because it's a secular teaching, it can be used in a homeless shelter, in a church, in a yoga studio, in a public school. And it is something that can be shared in that way. And that is a practice I have come to love, because it blends so many of the things I love. And backing up a little bit, one of the things I love to do in my studies is see where things intersect. And I think there's commonalities in so many things, and being able to find that, I find that iRest does that beautifully by combining these ancient teachings with contemporary science and seeing how the science supports what these ancient yogis, have practiced through the centuries, and being able to share that with people in the Western world and be able to say, okay, here's the science and the research that supports this, and helping people to sense that in their body. So I've loved teaching the iRest for that reason, and also because it's been really powerful experience for me. In my very first teacher training, my 200-hour that I did, one of the co-teachers was studying for her certification in iRest. So we were kind of her, not necessarily guinea pigs, but she shared Yoga Nidra with us throughout our entire training. So I was on the receiving end through all of that, and that was my introduction to it. Fell in love with it, and I stayed in contact with that teacher. She's the other iRest teacher in our community, and she's been a mentor to me through this. And I'm glad to come around to diving deeper into the studies and sharing it. And it's what I feel more passionate about than sharing the asana. So I have a greater sense of comfort in sharing this. And I've always loved to hold the space for people to kind of pause from their daily life in order to connect inward, to go back out feeling more refreshed, grounded in their being, whether that is through a hike in nature or through a meditation or a yoga practice. When I graduated from teacher training, I started a retreat business that was trail running and yoga.
Cool.
With that idea, it was combining all my loves, because I had a background in hospitality and this new yoga certification. So I thought, okay, I'm going to combine this. But I'm too new at all as teaching, so I'm gonna have other people teach. So worked with a local, nationally, actually world ranked trail runner, Nikki Kimball, and she's also a physical therapist. So she did the biomechanics of running portion of the retreat, and had another yoga instructor do the yoga. And we were at a ranch in Montana where there was no cell phone or Wi-Fi. So people were just in this lovely space to connect with nature and with themselves. So it was at that idea of a pause and just reconnect with that essential nature. before going back out into the world. And then you can show up as your best self because you've had an opportunity to refill. And I feel like iRest can do that in a condensed portion of time, whether it is just a brief 5-minute practice or a 45-minute practice. The way the protocol is set up is a way that you get this opportunity to really nurture that essential nature.
Yeah, which it feels like is something we really need right now.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited that you're joining our community meditation team unexpectedly, but it's amazing. And so maybe talk a little bit. You're up on Wednesday nights at 8:00 Central, and it's awesome because we've long wanted to have an iRest person in the community meditation team. So how about tell us a little bit about how in just a half hour you see iRest being able to impact people? Like, what might people expect?
Sure. Following the iRest protocol, which is research-based, that shows that it is successful in reducing stress and anxiety and elevating levels of well-being, that hopefully that's what people will feel, kind of a release of stress and tension in the body and mind. And when we can let that go, then we have a greater sense of well-being in the body. And if it is, or it will be at night before going to bed, it's a way for us to kind of process physical, mental, emotional, and cognitive tensions so that when we go to bed and we lay down, that's not all buzzing around in our body and our mind, and we can ease into a more restful sleep. So that's my intention, to help people prepare for a restful night's sleep and release some of the tension and anxiety from a day.
Yeah, wonderful. I've had really potent experiences with iRest around healing from surgeries, around just general tension, because even though I'm the executive director of a meditation-based organization, you would think, right? Oh, I bet you she's cool as a cucumber. Well, we're so busy that I'm anything but cool as a cucumber. And I just know that anytime I engage iRest, that my whole body and my whole, the way that I feel in my nervous system shifts, which is really beautiful. So I think the other thing I'd love for you to touch on is, I know that you have experience working with vets. And you may or may not know this about me, but before my life as a meditation entrepreneur, I too worked in nonprofits, and I worked for a nonprofit called Challenge Aspen. Mm-hmm. And we would take vets and their families skiing and snowboarding and all sorts of good stuff up in the mountains of Colorado. And so I got to know really wonderful folks who have served this country, and a lot of the things that they face upon return, including TBIs and PTSD. I've lost more than one friend to suicide. And so I would love to hear from you, your personal experience working with vets and iRest, and anything else you'd like to include.
Absolutely, thank you. My work directly with vets is actually quite limited. It's the traumatic brain injury community and the concussion injury community. So that's all in that same range from mild to traumatic. And of course, vets are often in that group. So I worked with LoveYourBrain several years ago. I went through a LoveYourBrain training. If you're not familiar with it, it's yoga and meditation for the brain injury community. It's a nonprofit foundation started by Adam Pearce, who was Shaun White's greatest rival, contender in the 2010 Olympics. Yeah. And so Kevin had a wreck in 2009 in the half pipe and didn't end up going to the Olympics. There's a fabulous documentary on his journey, which was going to be to the Olympics, and then it's actually turned into his journey into brain injury, called The Crash Reel. And I kind of stumbled upon this organization when I was doing some work with our Concussion Resource Center. A woman that comes to my yoga class regularly asked if I would come to her support group and give a a mini session or a presentation. And I was like, gosh, sure, I'd love to. And then I went home and I was like, oh no, what am I supposed to do? You know, I don't want to work them, concussion. And so I started Googling yoga and meditation for concussion and brain injury. And all this information about Love Your Brain came up. And I was like, wow. Watched the documentary, completely taken by this family and organization. And I signed up for a teacher training. And after coming back with that and thinking, gosh, I have a connection to a yoga school, it'd be so wonderful to bring this to the Bozeman community. I started to share what I'd learned through Love Your Brain with our Concussion Resource Center, at the same time trying to find a studio we could work with to bring the Love Your Brain program to our community.
Sure.
It took a while to do that, to follow all the steps that are necessary and get teachers trained. So a couple of years later, went back for another training and took 5 more teachers with me. And we now have a Love Your Brain program in Bozeman. We would currently be on our 4th session if we were doing live, but everything is closed down, so we had to cancel our April session. But that is my experience with the brain injury community is through the Love Your Brain organization and also through the Concussion Resource Center. So I've led the series and I've assisted for the Love Your Brain programs, and then through our Concussion Resource Center, I've shared a yoga series, a meditation series, and an iRest Yoga Nidra series. And it's been incredibly wonderful experience. I learn so much from everyone that shows up, and they're all incredible, knowing that they're there on their healing journey, wanting to learn tools just to feel better and be better. And I always think that, gosh, what if everybody, tried that? Like, I wonder how I could be a better person. And I'm so touched by everyone in the program. And I have had some vets as attendees in the program, but I haven't done anything yet specifically with veterans. It's been more in the brain injury community. Yet iRest is in military medical centers across the nation. So there's that connection as well.
Yeah, very cool. So we have you starting a series called Injured and Whole, Intro to Meditation for the TBI community in April. And so if folks were interested because they know someone with a TBI or they have a TBI, can you talk just a little bit about your vision for this series?
Absolutely. I'll be following pretty much the same format that I've done with our local programs, of working through a 6-week program where the first 2 weeks we focus on one area of the protocol, and then the next 2 weeks, and then the next. So it's going through the iRest protocol and introducing the different aspects of it and helping to build a solid foundation in this practice so that they can take it into their life, into their own practice afterwards. Richard Miller, the founder of iRest, likes to say a little bit and often, practicing a little bit and often. And so by building this foundation, the idea is that then they can tap into it more frequently. I feel like our yoga and our meditation practices are, like in our situation right now of global pandemic and crisis, is that what we're practicing for, to be able to have easy access to these tools when we need them most. And so this 6-week series is to introduce the different tools and different ways to use it so that when they're off their mat and in daily life, they have those things within reach, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, or cognitive stress that may be present, to be able to be like, okay, I've got some tools in my toolkit.
Very cool. And I'll just add in there, in case anyone's listening that is interested, there is a fee associated with the series, but Mind Oasis is always very happy to offer scholarships. So, and the way that you do that is to just connect with me, which is kelly@mindoasis.org, even though my name's Karuna, but my given name is Kelly. So it's kelly@mindoasis.org. And all you do is you tap your little email to me and say, hey, I need a scholarship. And we say, no problem. So just putting that out there. I'm happy that you touched on the way that the world is at the moment. It's something that we've been exploring in Meditation Happy Hour with each of my guests, because to ignore the fact that we're undergoing, first of all, the pandemic from a health perspective, but then the fallout, I can't tell you how many people I know who literally overnight, no income.
Yeah.
And then for the rest of us who, like for me as a type A personality, I'm kind of like, okay, pandemic is happening. I'm hunkered down. I'm helping. I'm donating. I'm doing this. Mind Oasis is doing a bunch of things with free classes and things like that. So we've got things in action. And now it's like, now what? And now we just sit here and wait with really, in a sense, no end in sight. Because we think we have one thing under control and then another thing kind of goes to shit. So my question to you is, just from your perspective up in Bozeman and as a iRest practitioner and a yoga asana teacher and someone who uses mantra in your own life, first of all, how are you doing? And then what do you think these days? What you got for us?
Those are some big questions.
Massive, but I left them real wide open, so you can just answer them however you want.
Most of the time, I'm good. But like anyone now, we feel deeply the pain that's associated with this. Being a homebody, that's the feel good part. I'm okay staying home. I'm okay with that. And I really love having my son home. He just turned 16, and so I know he's not going to be here a whole lot longer. So to have him here and have him in the house, it's such a treat. I feel like I'm buying back time, and knowing his body needs sleep. So he doesn't have to get up and go to the bus. He can sleep longer, and he can set his own time. So those are things I love, and seeing my husband more often, and all of us, connecting in the kitchen are the really like the sweet joys of this time. And I have always, I shouldn't say always, in my adult life, and living in Montana, seek opportunities to go out in nature. So I'm still doing that. That hasn't changed. So from that perspective, things are good. From the perspective of just the pain and suffering that is happening at a global level is heartbreaking. Mm-hmm. And where the practices help me is giving me, I don't know if it would be a roadmap or a user's guide for what to do with that. And I feel like iRest helps me with feeling it, for one thing, instead of pushing it away.
Yep.
It's reality, and we can't fight with reality. So how can I be with this? And I sit with it every morning in my meditation, just noticing what emotions are present. Chanting is a big part of my practice ever since I did the training, and that helps to move the energy and for me to feel a sense of harmony with my inner world and outer world, and feel like I am sending some good vibrations out into the world. I think it's difficult for me as a newer yoga and meditation teacher. I feel like newer because the learning's never going to stop, to find a balance between the producing and the consuming of online material, because there's that time I want to pull back and not be on a screen. And I also want to be able to share what I've learned if it can be a benefit to people. So trying to find a balance with that, I find challenging. What is offered for free? What is there a fee for? Because I still need to find a balance for myself of paying my bills. And that is a struggle that I don't know an answer to it, and just try to work through it as the waves of emotion come and go, and try to share a sense of love and hope. We will get through this because nothing is impermanent. We know that. But how long it takes and what it's going to look like afterwards, I don't know. And so the teachings help me to take it one step at a time, one moment at a time, appreciate the beauty that is still present, and work with the emotional roller coaster. I don't know if that answers all your questions or if it's just a bunch of babble.
And then so in that vein, you have an upcoming series that's kicking off this week, and it's called Meeting Myself in Meditation and Life. And I'd love to hear what you're thinking, what it's going to look like, and then maybe what the title means, Meeting Myself in Meditation and Life. What does that mean to you?
Sure. For me, that is how I get to know myself better and connect my mind and body and try to be my best self and set intention and discover what that is through taking that time to be on my mat in my meditation practice and in my mantra. As I mentioned earlier, the mantra practice was powerful for me to find my voice. And I think there are many others that are looking for their voice, because we hear and see so much around us of how we should be, what we should do, that we sometimes lose touch with that inner compass. And through the mantra and chanting, we connect with our own vibration and our own voice, and we can tune into that authenticity and our own unique expression of life. So using mantra for that, and meditation through iRest, using the wonderful format of iRest to be able to work with different sensations in the body and emotions, thoughts, and beliefs, and just having a better understanding of ourselves. It's that relationship we have our whole life. And so it's worth dedicating time to. And I haven't always felt that way. Growing up, I definitely didn't really want to spend time with myself. It wasn't a good relationship. Yet I've realized over the years how important it is not just to take care of ourselves physically, but mentally and emotionally as well, so that we can show up for others and not necessarily be the one. I don't want to be the one that needs help. I want to take care of myself so then maybe I can be of service to others at this time.
Great. And what do you see, what sort of components do you see happening in your series? What could people expect?
Sure. Some gentle yoga and some mindful movement. So that's my favorite kind of asana practice, is moving slowly, with the idea that I like to think of it as like if you're driving in a car and you're going 80 miles an hour, like what you're actually going to see versus driving, say, 30 miles an hour and what you're going to see. And what you're going to see by moving more slowly is an internal awareness and perception of the sensations in the body. So gentle yoga asana to begin with. And then some mantra, some chanting, just really simple practice to connect with that voice. And then moving into a guided meditation and having a different theme each week. Nice. And an opportunity to journal the experience along the way.
Very nice. And some people haven't actually literally done an iRest practice before. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if you can just kind of talk a little bit about what an iRest session will look like.
Yeah, great question. It starts with the first 3 steps are related to sankalpa. Sankalpa being a deep, heartfelt desire. So it could be to be a loving and compassionate human being. So kind of your mission statement for life, something that gives you value, meaning, and purpose, or to live in harmony with your surroundings. So tapping into that heartfelt desire, an intention for the practice that supports you in manifesting that heartfelt desire, and an inner resource. So inner resource, that unchanging, unbreakable sense of okayness and wholeness and peace that's within us. So an inner resource could be just a sensation in the body, or if you think of a time that you felt at ease, that might be an image that brings that to mind, and then feeling into that sensation in the body and knowing that that's always there and it's not dependent on situation or circumstance. So that's the first 3 components of iRest. And then body sensing, the idea of getting out of the busy mind and feeling into the body through that rotation of awareness through the body, that sometimes you feel sometimes not. And there's no way of doing it wrong. Just being present with whatever the sensation is or isn't. After body sensing, breath, just noticing the breath. There's different breath exercises like in a yoga practice. So breath sensing, and that again gets us out of our thinking mind and into feeling, which is calming to the nervous system. And then an awareness of feelings and emotions, so say like heavy and light or hot and cold. And then also feeling into sensations that are present in the body. Emotions have an accompanying sensation in the body. And we don't always have an awareness of that. And by going through the practice, we can notice those subtleties and kind of build that muscle of awareness. And same with thoughts and beliefs, an awareness of what's present, and the notion of welcoming all of these sensations, emotions, thoughts, beliefs, because they're there, rather than pushing them away, because they'll probably come back until we acknowledge them and find out what message they have for us. And after going through those processes, then it's a sensation of joy in the body, and joy and bliss, and stepping back as a witness to all of these sensations that are coming and going, and just being. And then the last step is a kind of a review of the journey and coming back to waking consciousness. So that's kind of the 10-step protocol in a linear fashion. It's not always in that linear fashion, but it's the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah, and so people sometimes sit like we are, sometimes they lie down. Eyes open or closed is okay.
Yeah, sorry I didn't mention that, of course.
No, that's great. No, I'm asking because I know that I've had people before ask who have suffered trauma.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that actually iRest is a very gentle practice for folks who perhaps have struggled with a more traditional meditation where perhaps you anchor your breath, things like we typically do on Mind Oasis actually, or people who have suffered a trauma, and that iRest can be a very gentle practice. So just a little bit around maybe that and, the sleeping thing.
Absolutely. It can be done sitting or lying down or even walking. Most people that I've worked with and that I've practiced with prefer lying down so that you're completely at ease. Yeah. And so it's nice to have props if we're doing it in our homes like this, finding a comfortable position. It could be on the bed, the couch, or if you're laying on the floor, having a pillow or a blanket. Eyes could be open or closed. That's an individual preference. It's nice to close off that distraction of the outer world to sink in. And some people prefer to have the eyes open, whatever is most comfortable. But finding a very comfortable position. And what's, I think the part that makes it maybe a different experience for individuals that have a harder time just sitting in meditation is that with it guided, there's very few silent parts of the practice. And so your mind's not wandering off as much because you're being guided through whether it's a body scan or a breath sensing and just the inquiring into different sensations. So you're not spending as much time in the busy mind. It's continually being guided back. And that's what makes it that gentle, more accessible practice.
Yeah, it's really sweet. I would encourage anyone who listens to this to for sure come to your Wednesday night session and to really dive into iRest, especially during these times. I feel like even those of us who do have practices at our fingertips, I find myself, I guess I can only speak for me, but I find myself, I'm okay most of the time, but when I spin out, those practices seem to like kind of lose themselves as well. And I feel like iRest is just this really like stick it in your calendar, put the notification on, and just say, I'm just going to come to Wednesday nights with Turi because it's a wonderful midweek reset. And I just can't say enough. I think that Richard and Stephanie are both amazing human beings. And our introducer, Karen Soltis, who's a board member, she too is an amazing iRest teacher. And I just can't say enough about the practice. So as we wrap up here, is there anything else you'd like to add? Is there anything else you'd like us to know? Is there anything we missed? Is there anything, that you just want to give a shout out to the world? Anything else?
No, thank you very much for this opportunity. And we're in this together and we're going to get through it together. So I look forward to connecting.
Yeah, wonderful. Thanks, Turi. So just to recap, Turi has a few different opportunities coming up. It's amazing. Wednesday nights on community meditation, and then a series called Meeting Myself in Meditation and Life. I love the title. And then also, if you have any folks in your life or you yourself have any TBI stuff going on, a series around TBI. So thank you so much, Turi.
Thank you.